So apparently we tried to trade for Malik Willis from the Green Bay Packers. And they were not interested in trading him, which makes logical sense because he honestly is a really good backup quarterback. And if Jordan Love ever goes down, if you're the Packers, you really want to have someone like Malik Willis ready to go, especially with how good that Packers squad is. That Packers squad is a Super Bowl team right now. So, you want to have that depth, which, again, we're in the same spot here. You want to have the depth from the Bengals' point of view, too, where if Joe ever goes down, you have a backup. Now, I have faith, and I'm ready to go with Jake Browning, but looks like the Bengals are trying to weigh their options. Now, of course, at the end of the day, he would be a backup to Jake Browning if we did get Malik Willis, so it's not like he'd be a starter. There would still be a scenario where, they're going to weigh their options on who would be the starter, who will be the backup. I think in the end, it would be Jake Browning as starter. But nonetheless, a little side note in case you don't know who this guy is. He was a former third-round draft pick by the Tennessee Titans in the 2022 NFL Draft. He is only 26 years old, so he's young. And this is something I will say that kind of sparks the question of eventually, maybe in the draft or maybe in free agency, going after a younger quarterback. So Jake Browning obviously is not the oldest quarterback in the world, but you do want to start to kind of consider your options on quarterback and maybe try to get someone who can sit behind Joe and you kind of like over time, develop and get better and better, right? Not saying Jake can't be that guy, but you kind of want someone who's younger, fresh out of college, someone who maybe has a positive track record in college. And that's kind of my mindset when it comes to that, especially with Joe's injuries. He's not getting any younger. You do want to get someone who you feel very comfortable with to come in and be able to run the offense at a very high level. If Joe does go down, obviously you can't replace Joe, but you could do to the best of your ability. Nonetheless, CBS Sports posted 3 potential quarterbacks that the Bengals could trade for, and number 1 is Kirk Cousins, and I made a video about this the other day. I was joking in the video. The whole point of the video was a joke. If you have seen any Tom Grossi videos, Tom Grossi always talks about, like, he has a Falcons fan reaction thing he does where he acts like a Falcons fan. And that Falcons fan always wants to trade Kirk Cousins over and over and over again, no matter what. They want to trade Kirk Cousins. So when obviously Joe went down, I was like, you know what? This would be maybe a little fun video to lift up the moods, lift up the reactions of people, the spirits. And let's talk about potentially trading for Kirk Cousins. That's why I laughed at the beginning of the video, because the whole point of the video was a joke. I don't think we should trade for Kirko. I don't want Kirko. But there are people in that video who really actually like the idea of trading for Kirk. I don't think this would be a good idea personally. First off, we would have to get the Falcons to pay most of his salary because he has $50 million. And I don't think that they would do that. And then with that being said, we would also have to give up most likely like a 6th or 7th round draft pick. And again, I just don't think it's going to work. Also, if he does come here, he's going to have to play behind our awful offensive line. And why would he want to do that, right? He could stay in Atlanta right now, make $50 million sitting on the bench, enjoying himself, rather than going to Cincinnati, have to get pretty much killed every single play, and, pretty much have to get killed every single play, and that's pretty much it. And then all the fans are going to be upset because he's not going to be good, and so on and so on. So it really doesn't make sense for Kirk Cousins to ever come here. But I try to make a video joking about it, and then I get some people like, hey, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea. And I'm like, oh, this was not supposed to be this. Number 2, Jimmy G. Another possible option. I don't want Jimmy G. First off, Jimmy G is very injury prone, so it's kind of ironic. But not saying Joe is, but I'm saying it's kind of funny. An injury happens, and we go for the most injury-prone quarterback. There's nothing wrong with Jimmy G. I just don't think he's a startable quarterback anymore, and I don't think he's really going to help us. I also think Jake Browning is better than Jimmy G, and that's kind of just how my thought process works. I think Jake Browning is better than Kirk Cousins, and I think he's better than Jimmy G. Again, I understand that this would, in theory, just be a backup, right? You're getting someone who would be a backup to Jake Browning because you need to have more than one quarterback. I just don't think Jimmy G is the option I would go with. And again, if you do trade for someone, there's going to be a stigma of, oh, we have to start this guy now, right? We have to go with this guy as a starter just because you're trading for somebody. And when you trade for someone like Jimmy G or Kirk Cousins, that stigma instantly becomes, okay, you have to start them because they're veteran quarterbacks, they're startable quarterbacks. I don't like the idea. Jameis Winston, I'm surprised he's not the number one on this list of potential quarterbacks that the Bengals would trade for. This is someone that everyone talks about. You know, whenever we had the injuries, this is the first person that people brought up. Right now, the Giants, great game versus the Cowboys, but they lost and they're 0-2. And eventually, they're going to go with Jackson Dart. Now, Russell Wilson did look good last game, so maybe they rock with him for another couple weeks or whatever. But eventually, they're going to go Jackson Dart, and Jameis Winston will become their third-string quarterback. This obviously opens up the door of potentially trading for the guy. I think we could probably get him for pretty much next to nothing. I don't mind the idea of him being a backup to Jake Browning. But again, like I said, if we did get him, there's going to be that, hey, you know, we have to start him type mentality because, come on, let's be honest, it's Jameis Winston. Not as a shot at Jake Browning, but Jameis Winston is very fun to watch. He's probably one of the most fun to watch quarterbacks in the NFL because he might throw 6 interceptions or 7 interceptions, but he'll also throw like 7 touchdowns. And giving him someone like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, he's going to throw the ball up for 60, 70 yards to Jamar Chase. And there's going to be times where Jamar Chase will catch it because he's going to throw a somewhat accurate pass. And then there's times that he won't catch it because he'll throw a really wild duck pass. And you're just like, wow, this is kind of entertaining because you never know what to expect. Jameis Winston playing football is like reality TV show where the NFL quarterback is a doctor. That's pretty much how I look at it. So he's an option, obviously, 100%. I don't know if I'd go with that option because he's more like the he's kind of more, how do I put this? I was going to say plan B. That's what I was going to say, and I don't think that's the right context for this. He's the option you go with when, as a coach, you're about to be fired, and you say, hey, what's the worst that can happen? And you know what, actually, that's actually the situation we're in right now because of Zach Taylor. So maybe this is the option. I don't know. With that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe button down below. Tell me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.